Hey, my brothers and sisters. God bless you. Welcome back. Well, I wanted to talk to you today about our guarding up, armoring up, because I don't know if you are picking up on it, but there is a spirit of contention and strife. And brothers and sisters, I know this spirit well, but it is growing in the world. And we must be on guard because we cannot drink this. We will suffer the wrath of God if we drink this cup. This is going to be a test of our patience and our faith, brothers and sisters. This is going around the globe, but it is very prevalent right now in our society. Be careful what you hear and don't get caught up in this contention and strife that's going around politically, because it's deadly. It could be deadly to your soul. This is of Jezebel, brothers and sisters. I'm going to have to do a study with you on Jezebel so we can recognize her, because she is the fox. She's the spirit of that fox that spoils the vine. She's a vixen. She is brawling and hateful and contentious. Death comes out of her mouth, guys. She's overbearing. She's brawling. She's quarrelsome. She's a vixen. I'm just going to give you a heads up on this. Do you see anything in here? This is from the creation concert last year in September at Jerusalem. Do you see anything there? Do you know this is Ezekiel, where Ezekiel got taken into the temple of the underground temple and dug through the wall? Isn't that like Ezekiel 8, I believe? 8 or 9. And he dug through the wall and he was shown all their abominations and their creeping things. You see that? This is what I'm talking about. What's this? Is that a locust? Is it some kind of a hornet? I don't know. I'm just trying to give you a heads up. The enemy is even showing us, okay? If we have eyes to see, ears to hear, the enemy is telling us who and what they are. Okay, I'm going to go back over here. I was in Romans. I was asking the Lord for a word. And I was just drawn to Romans 2. And here I'm going to read Romans 2 to you, because this is the warning of the wrath, brothers and sisters. This is, Romans 1, everybody uses that to judge everybody and condemn everybody, right? And they don't go on to read Romans 2, okay? And Romans 2 is telling us that we cannot be full of wrath and scorn and judging others, okay? Because the grace of God knows when to wake someone up, knows when to water that seed to wake them up. Just like before you came into the truth of the gospel, God already had his finger on you and said, I choose this one, and they're going to come to me. And only God sets that timetable. We don't know God's will for each individual soul. In the meantime, we are to, be walking in truth. And yeah, we're going to get attacked, and we're going to get cursed at and disrespected and all that. It comes with the territory, brothers and sisters. So no one wants to ever talk about Romans 2. They'll read Romans 1 talking about, how horrible things humanity does, society does, but then don't want to go on to Romans 2, which is a big mistake, because he's like, you're without excuse, oh man. Do not judge these things. Don't tell someone they're bound and destined to go to hell, because we don't know when God will wake them up. And If we condemn another, then we're condemning ourselves, because, brothers and sisters, we didn't keep the law either. And we are all guilty. You break one, you break them all. And so he's talking about the judgment of the wrath of God. If we hold up and want contention and strife and anger and bitterness and hatred in our hearts, then we're going to store up the wrath of God in our own hearts. Okay? And that is not what we're called to do. That is not. And he even says, how are you going to escape the judgment of God? I mean, Jesus said the same thing to the Pharisees, guys. Okay? So he's talking about hardness of heart. You know, we are to gently love one another. And yeah, it is hard sometimes. You know, if you've got a disrespectful person in your family or something, you know, and you could be trying to separate yourself from them, you know, and there's going to be moments where you're just going to be like, I can't take it anymore. You know, and then you got to turn it to the Lord. You got to give it over to the Lord before you blow your top. I've learned this, guys. This is the only reason I know that I'm even able to talk about this. So he's talking about, we cannot have a hardness of heart. We have to understand that God has a perfect will. He knows each soul. He knows each heart. But he's going to render, you know, out the punishment, and who he's going to wake up. He's going to wake up. And we have to trust him in that. So, oh, I got a crazy dog here. So then I was reading here that God's going to render to every man according to his deeds. And he says here in verse 7, he says, to whom by patient continuance and well-doing seek for glory and honor and immortality, eternal life. Because see, this is what we're seeking, all right? We're seeking the eternal life, the immortality, the resurrection, to live eternally in the glory of God, okay? But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath, tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, of the Jew first, and also of the Gentile. Okay, so I was looking at this word contentious. It stuck out to me because I was just reading Habakkuk about him crying out to the Lord. I had done a study on crying out to the Lord a while back ago, and I found some of my notes, and I've been led to get into Habakkuk for the last month. I even found some commentaries where they found the book of Habakkuk in the Qumran in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And so this really stuck in my head, and just, it was like an alert went off to me with this word contentious, because it's talking about, this is everything to do with right now, brothers and sisters. This is everything to do with the 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, with the man of sin, the son of perdition being revealed. Okay, so if you look at this word, this just means the 1537. That just means those that are operating out of contention. Okay, but the word contentious is very interesting. It just blew my mind. I felt led to click on it and look at it. And this word is erithia. Alright? And it's really interesting, because this is happening, brothers and sisters. I mean, I pray you're so careful what you're absorbing. I would highly suggest that you steer away from the witchcraft and the demonics that's happening in the political scene right now. The only thing we can really do is pray. Okay? I'm telling you. Something really, an evil spirit is moving. I hope you're aware. I know your spirit man is probably warning you. So heed that warning. Careful what you take in. Careful what you hear. Careful what you see, brothers and sisters. Just careful. Careful. What I found very interesting about this word, contentious and contention, it's talking about electioneering, intriguing for office. Someone putting their self forward, partisan, and a fractious spirit which does not disdain low arts. It's fractiousness. It's to divide, brothers and sisters. It's to defile. And he's got a note here, and it says, self-seeking. Now, this is something God just was like, remember when I told you about the cow going down the river? He was just like, do not be selfish and complacent. Don't forget your suffering brothers and sisters and those that are dying for their faith. Don't ever forget that, because it is at genocide levels in the Middle East, and it is happening. Persecution is growing, brothers and sisters, and it's going to get worse and worse, and many will fall away. They already are. The harlot is getting very apparent of who she is, and then you're going to have more fall away from the offenses. They're not going to be able to take it. Only by the Lord's hand, brothers and sisters, and us seeking His face, are we going to be able to endure these times. And it's happening quickly. It's happening quickly. So he's talking about a self-seeking pursuit of political office by unfair means, brothers and sisters. Paul exhorts the church to be of one mind in the Christ, not putting self forward or being selfish. This is what he just told me. That was what he was warning me about this cow. When we're being persecuted, or we're going through a trial, please know you're not alone. You have brothers and sisters that are really going through some things. We got to stay faithful in our hearts, obedient and faithful in the gospel. We cannot drink this bitterness, brothers and sisters. We can't. It will defile us, and we will not be blameless. We could get tossed into a bed of great tribulation. Be very careful. It's a selfishness. It's a self-promoting. It's that man of lawlessness, that spirit of Antichrist is so in our face right now. Do you not know something's really, really wrong? So I was reading this, and it struck me, because this is this is what it's talking about. It's a contentious, courting distinction to put oneself forward, a partisan, a factious spirit, which does not disdain low arts, partisanship, factiousness. James talked about this. He says, but if you have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. God is not going to have this in us, guys. He's not going to allow it. It's not going to be in His body. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion, Babylon, and every evil work. Philippians 2:3, let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, let each esteem other better than themselves. Philippians 1:16, the one preach Christ of contention, not sincerely, supposing to add affliction to my bonds. He was talking about false preachers that were like, Paul was in bonds, he was being held prisoner, and he was talking about those that were contentious, backstabbing. But the other of love, knowing that I am set for the defense of the gospel. Yeah. It means even equivalent to contending against God here in Romans 2:8. These people, this spirit is contending against God. Brothers and sisters, this is the spirit of the man of lawlessness. He's a law unto himself. He thinks he is the law. And he's defiling Christians. I know the spirit very well. Please, brothers and sisters, take heed this warning. Take heed this warning. We won't see God if we have this in us. We will not see the Lord. See, Paul had to deal with this in the Corinthians. The Corinthians are the most carnal church. That's why it's a rather long gospel. They had a lot of problems. They were very carnally minded, and they had problems. And Paul was like, for I fear lest when I come I shall not find you as I would, and that I should find you unto you such as you would not, lest there be debates, envyings, wraths, strifes, backbitings, whisperings, swellings, tumults. Guys, he tells us, Paul clearly tells us in the gospel, that if we are of these spirits, we will not see the Lord. We will not see him. Here it happened in the Galatians. This is everything the Lord warned me about in that last presidential election. Told me, back up. This is witchcraft. Well, now it's beyond that, brothers and sisters. It's downright hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, idolatry, witchcraft. That harlot is getting pretty sewn up. Guys, we can't have any of this in us. We can't. This is why I've been so disturbed in my spirit and the Lord showing me things. We don't want to be that fat cow going down the river. God's not going to have a complacent, selfish, hardened heart. Body. Faithful, blameless, without spot. That's the opposite, brothers and sisters, that's defilement. And that is what this is. And this is the spirit that's moving over. And we have to be armored up, sealed tight in the gospel of truth and grace and mercy and long-suffering, and pray. And praying. I'm going to take you to, because that's what this is. This is the fox that spoils the vine. This is the spirit of Jezebel. It's exactly what it is. Let me see what I wrote for. Oh, but she appears to be a chaste virgin. I hope you know. She acts like she's chaste and virginal. She acts like she's pious. But it's the Queen of Heaven, brothers and sisters. This is the spirit. It's a vixen. God was just showing me all these things about the red fox. This is one of the things they're doing. They're just, they're defiling even God's creation. I hope you know. But she is a Baal worshiper. She abuses the liberty of the Christian liberty. She's impious and cruel, but she acts like she's so religious. She's godless and diabolical. She calls good evil and evil good. She loves her idolatry of riches and wealth and comforts. She protects her idolatry, defends it. Even will say it's biblical, of her riches. And pervert the gospel to be prosperity, feel good. This is the same spirit, brothers and sisters, that persecuted the prophets and the Lord's faithful. And she teaches and seduces God's servants to commit fornication with Baal. Yeah, it's all about the merchandise, the gold, the goods, and the material wealth of Tyre. Tyre is in that harlot, brothers and sisters. I read that to you yesterday. It's the traffic, it's the merchandising. She seduces. It's exactly what she does. That's why she's the harlot. She's religious, and she's riding the beast, brothers and sisters. She's riding the beast. The first beast is a political machine. It's a war machine. It's bloody. It has all the names of blasphemy across its heads. And that harlot rides it, and she thinks she controls it, and she thinks it's for her. And it's going to burn her. and devour her flesh. It hates her. It's a trap. It's happening in front of our eyes. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to go to Habakkuk, because this is all about, Habakkuk chapter 1 is all about that man of sin, the lawless one. The burden which he saw, Habakkuk the prophet. O Lord, how long shall I cry for help in distress, and thou wilt not hear? Even crying with a loud voice unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save? Why dost thou show me trouble, and cause me to behold injustice? For spoiling and violence are before me, and I had to endure strife and contention. This is iniquity, brothers and sisters. This is everything to do with 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. I'm going to go back. Hold on. Just so I can make my point. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here. In Romans 2. Oh, my computer is really slow. But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath, tribulation, and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil, of the Jew first, and also of the Gentile. Alright? Here you go. He's telling them, do not be shaken in mind or troubled. He's talking about that day of Christ is at hand. He's telling them what's going to happen before that gathering together. And he says, let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he is God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Yes, he wants to stand on the congregation, brothers and sisters. He wants to stand on the wings of the temple, but it's a wings of an abomination. He says, and with all deceit, I'm down here in verse 10 now, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they may be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, and they should believe a lie, that they all might be damned, who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. This is the harlot. The church is here during this time, and it's happening right in front of your face, my face. Anyone that denies this is asleep. But unto them that are contentious and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, indignation, and wrath, tribulation and anguish upon every soul of man that doeth evil. Alright, I'm going back to Habakkuk now. This is what Habakkuk's crying out for. He's seeing this. Why dost thou show me trouble and cause me to behold injustice, iniquity? This is evil doing, brothers and sisters. This is the bad in nature of humanity. He says, therefore is the law benumbed. This is oppression and injustice, brothers and sisters. This is grievance. It's a contention that's rising up. He says the law is slacked or benumbed, and justice or judgment does not go forth. For a lawless one doth compass about the just one. The wicked, a lawless one. This is your guy on the white horse, guys. This is the first Antichrist before the deadly wound. And it's the beast that gets the deadly wound. And he's going to turn on that harlot. Look you among the nations. This is a perverted. Everything's getting perverted, brothers and sisters. It's wrong. It's perversion. Look ye among the nations and regard and wonder marvelously. This is the Lord speaking. For I will work a work in your days which you will not believe, though it be told to you. Here he's saying, for lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation. Brothers and sisters, your Chaldeans are your Kabbalists. They're your higher education, sciences. They are the ones using technology like CERN and the internet and quantum computing. But they're all practicing Kabbalah. It's coming together, brothers and sisters. It's taking over the world. It's a spirit. This is how we know this mankind, humanity, is turning very dark. That is exactly what God said it would be before he intervenes and gives this thing a wound, and it resurrects, brothers and sisters, and then it's the Great Tribulation. So this is talking about that man, Antichrist. It's a bitter spirit. It's bitter and hasty. And it's going to march and take over. Okay? He says, for lo, I raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which is also the spirit of Antichrist, one and the same, guys, which will march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not his. It is terrible and dreadful. His decision and his elevation shall proceed of itself. Brothers and sisters, this is talking about his spirit, his demeanor, his persona, its wickedness. His horses are swifter than the leopards, and are keener than the evening wolves. And his horseman shall spread itself, and his horseman shall come from far. It shall fly as the eagle that hasteth to eat. It's all for violence. It's not there to totally do conquest. It's there to destroy. It's the destroyer. It's of the spirit of Apollyon, Abaddon, the destroyer out of the pit. This is the curse of Deuteronomy 28 coming upon God's people. It's the curse, brothers and sisters. God is about to smite this earth with a curse. It shall come all for violence, for destruction. His intent shall swallow up. As the Palestine burning east wind withers up and destroys all green things, and he shall gather the captivity as the sand. This is the locust army, brothers and sisters. And he shall scoff at the kings, and the princes shall be a scorn unto it. And he shall deride every stronghold, for he shall heap up mounds, and capture every stronghold. Then shall his spirit, or his mind, change, and he shall pass through and offend, imputing this his power unto his object of worship. This is Daniel 11, the abomination of desolation, the God of forces, the God of fortresses, Mawals. Art thou not from everlasting, O Lord my God, my Holy One? We shall not die. O Lord, hast thou ordained it for judgment, and O Rock, thou hast established it for correction. Yeah, you want to know why? Because this is the wrong rock that they're leaning on. This is the rock of Tyre. Ah, not the rock of the ages, the rock of our salvation. They're being sucked in. He's gathering his own. By their fruit, you will know them. By their spirit. Be careful, brothers and sisters, what we're listening to. You must be armored up. You must be sealed in the love of the gospel. We're going to not be found worthy. Our hearts will be defiled. This is what this is designed to do. He's talking to God here, and he says, Thou art of pure eyes than to behold evil, and cannot look on wrong. Wherefore lookest thou upon them that deal treacherously. There's your treacherous dealer, brothers and sisters. And holdest thy tongue when a lawless one devours the man that is more righteous than he, and makes men as the fishes of the sea, as the creeping things that have no ruler over them. The creeping things, just like what Ezekiel saw in that temple, just like what they're putting in our face right here. This was a year ago. They're having another one in September. Brothers and sisters, I pray you're ready for what's coming in these very, very near days. Time is short. Don't let the devil defile your heart. Stay true. Ask Christ to guard your heart, your mouth, your lips. Have his heart, have his eyes. This man is about to be revealed. I'm not blowing smoke up your dress or your pants or whatever, if you're a guy. I'm telling you the truth. I recognize these spirits. The Lord has shown me these things most of my life. I didn't understand much, but I do now. I don't know everything, but I do know when my Lord is blowing warning signs that I cannot ignore, and that I know what spirit is trying its hardest to overcome us. But Jesus said, in me you will have peace. Not the peace of this world, but his peace, his inner peace of his truth and his spirit, his Holy Spirit. And he said, and in this world you're going to have trouble and you're going to have affliction. Be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. Our Lord is about to give this thing a deadly wound. I pray you're ready. He's going to be doing some things. And the line will be drawn. Who's who and where they're going. But the Lord's mercy endures forever. And today is a new day. And his mercy and his grace extend. And his arms are stretched out for forgiveness, repentance, to strengthen, to stand us back up. He overcome this world. He overcome the wicked one. He's already overcome the wild beasts. He's taking them by the horns. The Lord is sending this. The enemy has to warn what it's doing if we're awake. Time's short, brothers and sisters. Our world is about to change. It will never be the same. Don't worry about all this tangible stuff. It's going to frustrate us. It's going to get harder and harder for us. Because we're not of this world, brothers and sisters. We're seated in heavenly places. That's where the Lord would desire to have us. I pray you see what I'm talking about. I know many are afraid to speak out. I believe they're starting to see, but they're afraid to speak out because, one, they think they'll be ridiculed or they just... Your flesh doesn't want to believe this, okay? Your flesh does not want to believe this. But our spirit man should be screaming, awake, awake.